Toyota has finally come to their senses after 3 years of the launch of the Toyota Supra in 2020. They finally decided to put a manual gearbox in their sports cars. It's something that they should have done from the start. And this will only be available with the 3-liter inline 6, same 382 horsepower that we have in the automatic transmission. The base 2-liter turbo will still only be available as an automatic, which to me just doesn't make sense. It makes it even more redundant than it was before, because who is going to buy the 2-liter Toyota Supra for more than what you pay for a base Nissan Z that has more horsepower and also comes with a manual transmission as standard? It just doesn't make sense. So what we're going to do in this video, I want to show you the design changes for the manual transmission Toyota Supra from a front, side, and a rear, but we're also going to have a look at the interior, because this is not just slapping in a manual gearbox in the Toyota Supra. They had to redesign the interior to make it work. So we're going to have a look at that in this video. Let's start with the front view and overall what I think about the Toyota Supra these days, or even since the beginning. Has it grown on me, or has it gone the other way? So looking at the automatic up here, and down here we have the new manual transmission. There is one change on the exterior that I am blown away by. We're going to talk about that in a side view. So looking at the Toyota Supra, what I like the overall, you know, the graphics of it. It looks pretty clean. It looks like a fun car. We have this nice chamfer or framing of the front end, and we have some nice line flow in the front end in the graphics here. And we can see it more in the gray version down here in a second. But what I don't like, as I'm sure you know, zoom in here and you can tell that this is just a fake vent right here, fake vent. We talked about this so many times. There are so many fake vents on the Toyota Supra that it's just normal these days to kind of bring them up when you talk about the Supra, I guess. But the proportions looks pretty good. I'm still disappointed. I'm never gonna get over the disappointment from the FT1 concept that they kinda hinted indirectly was gonna be the next Supra. Beautiful proportions, looks almost like a supercar, and then they dropped this with a very short wheelbase, but it's still a pretty decent looking design in my opinion. Now going into the manual transmission down here from a front view, here you can see I love this hood design. You can't really see it on the red here because of the red color. You can't really see the lines. You can see it a lot clearer here on the gray, and I really love how this has almost like a Formula One inspired front end with this nose in the front. But as you can see, we also have the same kind of treatment of the air intakes and the vents. However, I think looking at this piece right here, it looks like this is actually has at least the texture on here. Here it's just a flat panel, as you can see. We have the texture on one side, so it's kind of interesting to see how they decided to go about designing the texture on top of the fake vents there. It's pretty cool. I mean, it still doesn't have a lot of changes in the front end. You can barely tell that this is a manual. If you even maybe the color, it's gonna have some new colors to it. Also on the interior, I'm gonna show that in a second. But now let's have a look at the side view. Now, I've said that Mercedes has some of the best looking stock wheel designs coming out of the factory. I think Mercedes is doing a fantastic job because their designs of the wheels, they look different from when it stands still, and when it starts to rotate, you get different graphics that you don't see when the wheel is still. Now, looking at the proportions of the Toyota Supra, it looks really nice. It has this typical sports cars proportions, as you can see, and then this roofline just dips down like this, and then into this nice send-off. As you know, I love when they have a send-off like this in the rear, and it marks a nice end point of the rear, and that it's also this sharp really brings in this dynamic feeling that we're going to have a look at in the rear view. And then we have the same kind of framing in the rear that we have in the front right here. So I like that it has a continuity in the design. And then this massive muscular shoulder right here goes into another fake vent that's in the door, and it gets a little too complicated for me in this section right here. And we can also clearly see the other fake vent in the hood on top right above the front axle. This roof panel feels very thick to me. we do have this line from the A-pillar going into the roof pillar and then kind of fades away in this area. So it is a beautiful design, and it will definitely give you more headroom inside, but it kind of looks almost like a Koenigsegg style visor, which is not bad at all. I really like the treatment of the greenhouse of the Toyota Supra. Now, looking at the new manual transmission, what they decided to do is give the manual transmission some specific wheels. I'm not sure if this is specific for the limited to 500 units, the A91 manual, but I hope they bring these wheels in the new 2023 Supra, because these are some of the best looking wheels I've seen in a very, very long time coming out of, from the factory itself, from the manufacturer. These look great. They look so much. I really like the old wheels as well. You can see them right here. I think these look really cool as well, because you have some silver pieces combined with some black spokes, and they look like they fill out the wheelhouse as well, even though they're just 19-inch. These are also 19-inch wheels, but they look perfect in size for this car. I would not put 20s on this Supra. I think the 19s here, they look fantastic with these thin spokes, and then we have almost like a spider web of small spokes connecting to some of these spokes, not all of them. You have this spoke, for example, being without that spider web in the base. It looks great. I think this is a great addition to the manual transmission. These wheels look lightweight, and they look aftermarket, and also look very expensive. Other than that, not a lot of changes in the overall design of the Supra. We still have the same rear end and no additional wing or anything like that. All the graphics look pretty much the same. Now, looking at the rear view, I've always been a fan of this rear view of the Supra for the simple reason that we don't have any fake vents here. There's nothing really fake about the rear end like it is on the side and in the front as well, and that's why I prefer this view of the Toyota Supra. Now you can see that the logo here is black on the automatic, but it is red on the manual, and I think this has to do, I'm pretty sure this has to do with the A91 500 unit special edition Supra, and maybe not the manual transmission is going to have a red logo in the rear. I hope so. The same thing with the wheels. I hope that they implement some design changes on the outside like we have on the logo and these gorgeous wheels. I want them to be on all manual transmission Supras, not just a limited edition A91. So now let's have a look at the biggest change obviously is going to happen in the interior. Look at these two and see if you can see any changes to the interior outside of course, the obvious manual stick shift. So there are some big engineering changes in this design. Up here we have, of course, the 2020 manual Supra, and we have some new colors, as you can see, for the manual transmission. This color will also be available for the automatic transmission for the 2023 model. I think this leather, this kind of beige leather, it makes it look more like at least feel more like a GT car, in my opinion. It looks really cool. I do like the red as well, gives it a more sporty look. It depends on what you kind of feel like going for the interior. But looking at the center console, this is where I want to bring your attention to, because when they decided to put a manual transmission in the Toyota Supra, they couldn't just stick a manual and keep the same kind of design for the center console right there. What they did, if you look at these, you can see that the width of the automatic is a lot thinner than it is on the manual. So what they did, they wanted to kind of give the stick shift more space in all angles around it to give the driver a better reach and not have to worry about hitting some buttons when they're using the stick shift. And I think that's really good attention to detail by Toyota to do that. You can see that, for example, this knob is moved further to the right here, so it sits closer to the passenger. And these buttons, I think this is for the sport settings and stuff like that, they are also moved now to be on the left side of the stick shift right here. And when you do this change, obviously you're gonna have to add some width to the center console, and that's not something that I think looks bad or anything. Like, I think this is a really good idea by Toyota to really, if you're gonna drop a manual, make it right from the start. And I think this just shows that that's exactly what they did. So I'm excited for the 2023 Toyota Supra with the manual transmission. Would I buy it over a Nissan Z though? They say that this manual transmission is an option, so it's not clear if it's gonna be an additional cost to get the manual transmission. I think it's probably going to have some additional cost to it, but if you add a couple of grand to the Toyota Supra, it's already $2,000 and more expensive than the Nissan Z with the performance package. So adding more money on top of that to get the manual, which you already get in the Nissan Z, it's a very difficult decision there, but it definitely makes the Toyota Supra a lot more attractive to me now that we get it as a manual. The thing is, they should have done it from the start.